Cathy Decker, wife, nurse, auntie, daughter, friend, and her favorite role, mother to three beautiful children, Avery, Addison, and Duke. On February 8th, 2016, Avery Violet Decker was welcomed into their life. Becoming a mother taught Cathy the true meaning of unconditional love. Sadly, on March 9th, 2017, Avery passed away suddenly and unexpectedly in her sleep. Cathy's world completely changed that tragic day. There's nothing more painful than losing a child. It changes every part of you. Grieving and mourning are the hardest work you will ever do. And for Cathy, she found such healing in connecting with other bereaved parents. And this kinship led to the creation of Avery's Legacy. Avery's Legacy is a way for everyone to remember Avery and keep her memory alive, all while supporting others. Avery's Legacy creates personalized bereavement boxes that are donated to families in Alberta who have recently experienced the death of a child. Avery's Legacy bereavement boxes are curated with locally made items that are intended to be meaningful, helpful, and to support a healthy grieving and mourning process. Avery's Legacy has expanded to offer bereavement boxes for purchase as a way to show support to someone grieving any type of loss, including the loss of a grandparent, parent, spouse, sibling, child, pregnancy, relative, friend, or pet. I'm so excited for you to meet Cathy in this week's episode. Hello, and welcome to the Oracle of Light. I'm Shauna DeMellon. I'm a lifelong medium and certified life coach. And making the connection with the afterlife has brought me the greatest joy. Since losing my son, Jack, I have navigated grief, heartache, and despair. And it was through connecting with my son on the other side that my heart began to heal and I was able to find joy and meaning in my life again. Now, I'm inviting you into this space as I explore the afterlife, the grieving process, and rebuilding after loss. If you'd like to discover the spirit world and how to move through the loss of a loved one or child, you have come to the right place. This is the Oracle of Light. You are listening to the Oracle of Light. I am your host, Shauna DeMellon, and I have the lovely Cathy Decker here with me today. We met, was that last week or the week before? My days are all.
I lose time. I don't know.
I know,
Maybe
right?
a week and a half ago. Cut it in the middle.
Yeah, let's cut it in the middle. It was like a week and a half ago. And we have something in common that is not something that anyone wants to be a part of, but we do. We both share in child loss. And I am just so excited that you are joining us today. And I'm just thrilled that we are going to experience your world and you're going to introduce us to your beautiful Avery. And we are just going to have an incredible conversation about child loss and what that looks like and navigating it and building a life after and with a child in spirit. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shauna, for having me. I'm so excited to be here too. Talking about Avery is one of my favorite things to do. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to share her, not only with you, but to everyone who watches this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And now let's just start off right out of the gates with your sweet Avery. Would you share with us everything about Avery?
Yes, I'd love to. So Avery is my firstborn child. She was born February 8th, 2016. Just the most perfect little girl. Quick, easy labor. She nursed easily. She slept like a champion. She ate. She loved to eat all sorts of fruit, cheese, grapes, hamburger soup. And, you know, I think maybe she knew that she was only going to be here for a short time because she crawled at 6 months. She walked at 9 months old.
Wow.
I know, it was incredible. We took her to California before her first birthday, and I have pictures of her hiking through the canyons of Palm Springs at 11 months old, like holding a stick and hiking around there. She was incredible. She always smiled, happy to see everyone.
Oh,
You can see her right there.
there she
There
is.
she is. She had big, beautiful blue eyes, like the color of your shirt. So blue, white blonde hair. And again, just a smile that just would just suck you in and you couldn't help but just like be filled with warmth and joy.
Oh, sweet
Yeah.
girl.
Yeah,
Sweet.
she was the best.
Hmm. And now, can you tell us how she transitioned, what happened, what led up to that, and everything
Yes.
you'd love to share. Hmm.
So it was just a regular day, a regular Thursday. Her dad got her up and ready and off to daycare, and she had lay down for her afternoon nap at her day home, and she just unfortunately never woke up. We had a thorough investigation with the medical examiners. We sent extra samples overseas for more testing, and we just never got an answer as to why she passed away. I know lots of people are familiar with SIDS,
Hmm.
sudden infant death. And that is for infants from, you know, birth up to 12 months. And then there's an even rarer category, sudden unexplained death in childhood. And
Hmm.
that's from over 1 to 18 years old.
Okay.
And yeah, she falls into, I think, that very rare category.
Oh, I'm.
Yeah, that day, you know, I'll never forget all the things about it, from, you know, receiving that phone call to, you know, going to the hospital to leaving the hospital empty-handed without my child.
It's heartbreaking. I'm
Yeah.
just so sorry for your loss. So
Thank
sorry
you.
for your loss. Hmm. And now, how did how did life look like after? What did that look like? Can you walk us through how that changed everything?
Everything, you know, the day I often say to people, the day that she died, also a part of me died as well. I I describe it, and many other moms describe it as well, as like you're kind of just floating around. You're in such shock. Everything just looks strange to you. You come back to your house, everything looks different, everything feels different. You almost feel like an alien. You know, like you're on another planet, but it looks the same, but everything is so different.
Hmm. Hmm.
It was really dark, actually. To be totally honest, I didn't know if I would survive, if I would make it.
Hmm.
I didn't want to live in a world that Avery wasn't a part of.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, very different than suicidal. I wasn't actively trying to end my life, but I also didn't want to live, and I didn't have any hope or any light. It was just complete darkness that just engulfed me
Hmm.
for quite some time. Yeah.
I've heard that a lot, and my experience as well that I've shared. I wasn't suicidal. I didn't have a plan. I didn't think of how I would take my own life, but I didn't want to be here without Jack. It was like
Yeah.
it's like everything was just shades of gray. It
Yeah.
just yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
now,
so lost too. Like I didn't even know who I was. Like who was I if I wasn't Avery's mom? If
mhm,
I didn't have, I felt like I didn't have any purpose either. Because my whole life, she was 13 months old. I guess I should have said that. She was 13 months in one day. So I had just returned back to work from maternity leave, and I was off work the day that she passed. Um, but my identity was lost. I didn't know who I was. I didn't have a purpose. That
mm,
was a really big struggle as well.
mhm. And she was 13 months and 1 day. Is that what you, oh, that's
13 months and 1 day. Yeah. 1 year, 1 month, 1 day, 111.
111. Yeah. 111. And now tell us about Avery's legacy. Would you tell us?
Absolutely. Yeah. So as I was saying, those early days of just complete darkness,
Yeah.
I didn't know how I was going to survive. I didn't have any hope. And it wasn't until we received a gift from a stranger in our community who had heard about our story. The gift was from Mackenzie's mom, and she too had lost her child, an only child, a daughter, at daycare. And she heard of our story and she reached out to us and gave me physical items that were meaningful and helpful to her in those early days of her journey,
Mhm.
as well as a handwritten note, again, saying that I too understand this kind of pain. At the time, Mackenzie was our only child. And I think just reading her words um, had a little, let a little bit of light into my soul.
Mhm.
Um, how she said, at the time, Mackenzie was our only child, made me think, wow, this woman knows my pain and she's survived, she's lived, and she's moved forward with that grief and expanded her family. And
Mhm.
maybe I could too. Maybe,
Maybe. Oh,
maybe. So
maybe.
that was kind of maybe. That was kind of the start of it. That little bit of flicker of light, that little bit of hope that Mackenzie's mom gave me with this gift. And then I think, as you do, you buy a white minivan, you think you're the only one with it. Now, holy moly, every vehicle on the road is a minivan. I also think for some reason, child loss is like that too. You never know anyone who's experienced child loss. And then it happens to you. And in my experience, I felt like, oh my gosh, now I'm hearing of all these stories
Mhm.
of people who have lost a child. And I just felt like I needed these parents to know, one, that they weren't alone
Yeah.
in this journey, because it is a very isolating journey.
Mhm.
Even if you are surrounded with people, you're still so alone.
Yes.
And for me, it wasn't until I had that first connection with someone who truly understood that I felt just a little bit less alone. So
Mm.
one, I needed those new parents out here to know that they weren't alone.
Yeah.
Um, and I wanted to share with them things that I had found meaningful and helpful to me on my journey. So we started Avery's Legacy. I think we sent out our first box um, March of 2018, and Avery passed in March of 17.
Okay. So
Yeah,
almost
so
a
it took
year. Yeah.
about a year. It took some time. Unofficially, we sent kind of little things here and there, but kind of the first Avery's Legacy box was about a year after she passed. And today, what's included in it
Hmm.
is Dr. Alan Wolfelt's book, 100 Practical Ideas Healing a Parent's Grieving Heart.
Yeah.
There's a journal. There's Carry You With Me, a storybook written by a local mom here in Calgary, Alana Canavan. There's a mug, a coffee mug with the initial of your child. So mine is an A. There's a candle that you can light and we personalize it with the child's name. There's an envelope of forget-me-not seeds, again, personalized with the child's name.
Love.
There's some self-care items, bath bombs, lip gloss. There's some keepsakes, like an ornament that we personalize the tag with the child's name, a little keychain that says "Forever in My Heart." There's a cup of tea with some beautiful different grief quotes, again made locally here in Calgary. Local resources that we include in the boxes. And again, a personalized note that I handwrite to each parent
Oh,
and
love
parents.
that.
Yeah, just telling them that, you're not alone
Hmm.
to understand this type of pain, and that we hope that the items included are meaningful, helpful, and support you along this journey.
That is so beautiful. And, there is something so touching and so authentically real when someone takes the time to sit down and handwrite a note.
Oh, totally. I
That
think you feel
just,
the energy in it.
yes, you can feel
Yes.
the energy in it. And it's just, there is this, it's just, there's just that in itself is just like a little package of love.
Yeah.
And just, yeah, for me, the same thing, you know, anytime that someone has written a handwritten note about Jack, it just that, you know, I love everything else, but it's like, that is like, come here, that's mine. And it's just, I think that is just so beautiful and so touching. And I love everything that you have put together. I mean, that is, you know, and I've talked to so many parents over the years, and they say, you know, I don't want flowers, and I don't want, you know, this, or I don't want that. I've heard some really cool things though. I mean, some people have, you know, cooked up a storm and dropped off a week's worth of
Yep.
food, or, you know, done things like that, or, you know what I mean? And it's just, I love the idea of the forget-me-nots, because that's something that is beautiful and can grow and you can continue to have. And I love that. And so I just love everything that you've brought together to put in those boxes. I think that that's just
Thank
so.
you.
Mhm.
Thank you so much. They're all very purposeful in their reasons that they're included.
Mhm.
Like my name is Cathy. So if I'm drinking out of an A mug, and maybe somebody doesn't know my story, I'm at work, I'm drinking out of an A, and they're like, hey, why are you drinking out of an A mug? Like your name is Cathy. Well, now I have this opportunity to talk about Avery. You know,
Mhm.
in the beginning of grief, maybe that's not welcomed as much, I think, as you progress along your journey.
Right.
But now I have this opportunity to talk about my person. And
Mhm.
like that just brings me so much joy.
I love
Um,
that. There's another mom that I've met with. I'm not sure if I shared this with you. I think I did. Dominique. And so she would go and use her son's name whenever she ordered a Starbucks or whenever
yep,
they went out for dinner. And yeah, so I started doing the same thing. I'll just, what's the name? Jack.
yep,
Just
yep.
to
I do
hear
that
them
too.
call his name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just to say it. Yeah, my license plate on my vehicle is Avery's name,
Oh,
right?
I
The
love
strangers that drive
that.
behind me, they see Avery D or Avery 16.
Yep.
Um, are
Oh,
our license plates, which is great. You know, and
I
the
love
forget-me-nots, I love that as well. Just the name of it,
that.
one is so meaningful behind it. The fact that they're perennial, so each year they come back, and it's
Yes,
symbolic with kind of the transformation of life and the changes
absolutely.
that you
I
go
love
through. So,
that.
yeah, very symbolic. The candle, again, we've been lighting candles in memory and honor uh,
Mhm.
of loved ones. Again, creating that kind of sacred space to take a moment.
Yes.
Whether it's, we used to light a candle every Thursday because she passed,
Mm.
Avery passed on a Thursday. And it's kind of evolved over time, but a good reason, you set the Christmas table and you have an empty spot so you can put their candle there and light it to just, have them be a part of your celebration. So yeah, everything is very, very um, thought out.
I love that. And would you share about the buttons and of course your sweatshirt for everyone who's listening? You won't be able to see, but you'll have to watch the video. So there's Avery's legacy, and I love
Yes,
that
and
spreading
my button. So
with your
this,
button.
my button's my favorite. And I know so many other bereaved moms who now have buttons of their children, and it warms my heart. So it started um, the year Avery passed away. We had booked a trip, a family trip to Seattle for my father-in-law's 70th birthday, before Avery had passed. And then she passed, and then this trip came up in June, and I didn't want to go.
Mm,
And I couldn't, I really struggled going out in the world and people looking at me and not seeing Avery,
yeah.
physically seeing her, because they should, like, she should be here.
Yeah.
So my one friend Corey came up with the idea, well, just get a button made or something. And I was like, that's a great idea. So I got buttons made for everybody. So everywhere I looked with the family on this trip that we ended up taking, my husband and I ended up going. Um, we could look around and we could see Avery everywhere we went, and it's kind of stuck with us. So I have her on my sweater. My husband has him his briefcase when he opens it up for work. His little laptop bag, she's in there.
Aw.
You know, she's on our jackets, on my other children, Avery's little brother and sister. They have her on their backpacks for school, and
I
yeah.
love that. I love that. And would you share, you were sharing a week and a half ago, you were sharing about how Avery's siblings will talk about her and share about her. Would you share a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So we're very open in our household. Like our kids, living kids, Addison and Duke, they know that they have a big sister, and her name is Avery, and that she died, but she's still part of our family. And we tell her that heaven is up in the moon and the stars. So every time they go outside, they'll get so excited, Mom! And they'll point out, Mom, it's Avery.
I love
At
that.
the moon that's out there. You know, we try to get away for the anniversary of her passing. She loved swimming. She loved it, loved the ocean. She swam in Nova Scotia and the Atlantic, and she swam in the Pacific in Maui. She was just a water baby. So we get away. And it was a few years ago, again, the kids were eating ice cream and the moon was out. So they're holding up their ice cream cones up to the moon to share with Avery.
Aw,
Yeah, it's really quite special.
that is so sweet.
Yeah, we have a lot of signs that we um, believe are Avery telling us that she's with us.
What are the signs? Would you share the signs?
Absolutely. So the moon and the stars,
Yep.
coyotes.
Coyotes.
Coyotes, yeah, we that one stems from the day we picked her memorial tree that McGinnis and Holloway offer.
Mhm.
Every year, the memorial forest to the people who've passed the prior year, McGinnis and Holloway puts on a little service, and you can pick a tree for your loved one. So my husband and I were out at Fish Creek Park at the forest that was for her year, just kind of scoping them out, deciding which tree we were going to pick for her. And then all of a sudden, a coyote popped up from the bushes and just stared at us and just kind of walked away, like walked away from us, but kept looking. So we were like, well, we have to pick the tree that the coyote was laying underneath.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
She was
So
showing you.
she told us that's the tree.
That's the tree.
Yeah. And she was a big animal lover too. So I'm not surprised that she would send us a coyote. Yeah.
That
So
is
we'll see them in the most random spots, random times of day you wouldn't expect to see. There'll just be a coyote trotting down Stony Trail beside us or something like that.
Hey.
Running along 52nd by the dump. We'll see some coyotes, so that's very special. So the kids always see, when we do see a coyote, oh, Mom, coyote, it's an Avery coyote.
It's an Avery coyote.
Avery coyote.
Aw, that is so sweet. So sweet. And now we're just going to we'll step back into the boxes just for a moment. Now, you have how many different, we just want to touch on the different types of boxes you have, and people can kind of pick and choose what they'd like. And yeah.
Yeah, so the boxes that Avery's Legacy that I had explained earlier, that we donate those free of charge across the province of Alberta to all parents who've lost a child. We follow Alberta Health Service, the Children's Hospitals guidelines. So from full-term live birth to 18 years old, we donate across the province of Alberta. You can go on our website and sponsor a family that you know who has had a child pass, and we'll send one of those out. Nice. Those are funded through sponsorships. So you can also visit our website and you can sponsor a box. They're $100 to sponsor, and then that money pays for the contents and the shipping costs to send it across the province. And then it kind of evolved from, it started with just the donated boxes. And then we thought, what about people who have lost a spouse or a parent or a sibling or a miscarriage, a stillbirth? What about, like, how can we support all these different losses? Because I think one thing, like you had touched on, not everyone loves flowers. No. There needs to be something different. So we started to create boxes for all the types of losses. Right. So you can see those on our website. We have curated boxes to make it easy for you to pick. So you can pick the type of loss. Like I said, a spouse, a sibling, a parent, or you can what we call build your own.
Mhm.
And then you can just see all of the items that we offer, and you can pick and choose and tailor that box to your budget, and exactly to your likings. So again, it all includes items that are very, very intentional
Mhm.
in in their offerings. So one of my favorite is this heart shaped, which I know you would love,
Yes.
heart shaped bird seed ornament
Oh.
that you hang out in your tree. The squirrels and the birds absolutely love them. Again, it's a way for you to go outside to connect with nature. There's a lot of healing in nature, that I have personally found it in grief. And again, maybe ways to spark some signs maybe of your loved ones, the birds that come or the squirrels that come, maybe that can turn into one of your signs for
Absolutely. I love
yeah.
that.
Yeah, feathers that fall off the birds.
Yeah.
Feathers I know are a very common sign with a lot of people. So we offer a handmade porcelain feather, locally made by an artist just south of Calgary. And
Oh,
again, you can hang that in your window, or it has a beautiful little stand that you can display it on.
I love that.
Yeah, I wanted to mention too how you had said, Shauna, about like a little package of love when you were talking about the handwritten note.
Yes.
Well, those words are kind of exactly the intention of our boxes. Everything is locally handmade,
Nice.
except for the journal that come or the journal is
Yeah.
Avery's Legacy branded.
Yep.
Um, but like, we have to order those in bulk, and then Wolfelt's book. But everything else from the candles, they're hand poured here in Calgary by a local maker. The bird seeds are made by a beautiful young girl as her side job to pay for her show jumping. Um, the porcelain feather handmade by a local artist, the bath bombs made by um, another local maker here in Calgary, the tea made by a local maker who also has her own journey with loss as well. So everything is made with love, and all of our partners know what these boxes are. So it's like all of this love bundled up into this box, from the handmade pottery mugs to the teas to the candles.
I absolutely love that. And I also love that everything that you've chosen for the boxes, it is nurturing the body, the mind, and the spirit. Like it's nurturing every aspect of that person, because as we know, loss isn't just a broken heart. Loss isn't just tears. Loss isn't, it affects absolutely
Everything.
everything.
I was surprised at how physical it was.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, like Avery was really my first significant loss in my life.
Mm, yeah.
Um, and yeah, I was surprised at just how physical it was, from like the symptoms of anxiety that cripples you, the brain fog that you felt, just the overwhelming fatigue,
Yes.
the lack of motivation. Like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it was quite shocking. All of these, different symptoms I was feeling. I had no idea.
And and it's interesting too, because, and I've shared this with people. I mean, I'm 10 years in, Jack would have been 10 this year. And, 10 years ago, I just didn't feel good. And, losing Jack was quite honestly the beginning of the end of my marriage, because my husband at the time, it was, oh, be thankful we have Emma. And, it just wasn't meant to be. And he said all the things you're not supposed to say. And so I'm thinking that he would be my rock helping me through this. And his idea was, no, it's done. And what do you want for supper? And it was just like, oh God, what do I do with this? Because none of my girlfriends were having children at that time, or they didn't really understand. And my family was just like, oh, well, yeah, whatever, not a big deal. Or it was like the elephant in the room continuously. And I remember going to my doctor and I said, I don't know what to do. Like I cry all the time. I feel like I have the flu. You never know when I'm going to cry. And I said, I don't have anyone to talk to. And she said, well, maybe you should go find a good counselor or someone to talk to, and I can write you a prescription for some antidepressants. And I remember sitting there thinking, no, and no, I don't want to talk to just anyone. I don't want to just start taking medication. I mean, if I need that, if that's going to help me, I will, of course. But it was like, that's it. Like, that's it. Like I was looking for, and this is the work that I do, is I hold sacred space for someone's heart. And so I was looking for that. And it's interesting because in my journey, I became that for myself. And then I've, spread that out into the world. And as you mentioned earlier, I mean, hearts are big in my world, right? Like they're all over my house.
Yeah. And actually it's cute. Right beside me, this plant has a little
I love it.
Rock in it too.
Right? The hearts are in the house. Yes. I love that. And so it's fantastic. And, I love that. Again, I love that you've taken such care, and you've really thought of, okay, how do you nurture grief? I mean, it isn't just one thing. And everyone is different, right? Like everyone has their own way of working through things. And, I used to always drive out to Elbow Falls, which for those of you who aren't local, that's, about a 40 minute drive out past the city. And I used to go out there, and it's almost like I would give myself permission. Like I would get out there and I would cry, and I would sit and I'd find my pile of heart rocks, and I'd sit there and I'd feel miserable. And then
that's the process. That's the process. That's the work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's the healing.
It is. And I find a lot of people that don't really understand the journey are usually people that haven't processed a deep loss that they've had. Mm-hmm. I find a lot of people that are, they might scoff at what I do, or, the spirit side of things. And that's okay. It's interesting because I've been able to chat with a few people after the fact, after they've kind of came at me and, oh yeah, and how do you know that? And that's ridiculous. And no, when we're done, we're done. And there's nothing else. And I thought, And so a few of them have come back later to say, hey, you know what? There is more. And so I love that you talk about the signs. I love that there's more to life. There's a whole other life that we create after we've lost a child.
Yeah. And I think that, my grief counselor said to me, you're still Avery's mom.
Yeah.
Right. Because that was something I really struggled with, because she wasn't here. And I think a big part of my healing has been transitioning from Avery's mom here in the physical world to like how I parent Avery when she's not here and she's on the other side in the spirit world.
Yeah.
It's taken a lot of work. Avery's legacy for sure is one of the major ways that I parent her, and I continue to parent her.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is beautiful.
Yeah. My mom energy, my Avery mom energy.
Your Avery mom energy. Yeah. Right. And, with a lot of, the mothers that I work with, I always tell them, you will always be that child's mother. You will always just that is forever. That love never dies. That, our children are not here in the physical. And of course we would do anything to change that, of course, but we can have a relationship with them. We can have, I always tell people, your child is still 100% alive in spirit. And, I always tell people are like, you can see Jack. And I say, I can see him. I see him growing up on the other side. I see him with my grandmother and my grandfather. I see him with our little dog, Jessie. I see him, and, he's a 10-year-old now. And so I write about this often. I'll say, I wonder what he would be like now. Like, what would he be like as a 10-year-old? Would he be, playing hockey? Would he have his nose in a book? Would he be, collecting creepy bugs? What would he be doing? And so it's a different way of parenting. You're right. Like it's parenting a child in spirit. It's still wanting to show up as the best version of you so that you can continue to have that relationship with them.
And I think that's same across the board for all losses. Mitch Albom, he says, death ends a life, not a relationship.
Exactly.
And I love that quote. And I truly feel that is how I live my life on that quote.
Yeah.
With regards to Avery, death ends a life, not a relationship. And I have a relationship with her, and my kids, my living children, Addison and Duke, who never met her, they have a relationship with her. You know, my daughter, she says, I'm the middle child. And I'm like, well, you sure are the middle child
Yeah.
in all the ways, right? Like she knows that she has an older sister, and you know they wear purple shirts because you know her middle name is Violet and she's born in February, so the amethyst for the birthstone is of purple in her middle name, and they know that's an Avery shirt, and that's you know a way that they nurture their relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's a spouse that you've lost as well, you know.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I love that. I love that you've also included it. It's also branched out. It's like Avery is the hub, and then all these other little branches come out of it, you know, for anyone else who's had some sort of a loss. And it's yeah, because you know, a lot of people are, you know, they think, well, maybe I'll get a card or I'll send flowers. Like those are the two sort of standard things. And
I wish I could just interrupt those people and be like, great, send the card, but you know what?
Yeah.
Mark down the person who's died, mark down their birthday,
Yeah.
mark down the day that they've passed, and then send a message. Sorry, my cat is.
Your cat, he's joining us.
He's joining us, yes. You know, mark down that person's birthday, the day they've passed, and
Yes.
put that in your phone and repeat it yearly and send a message.
Yes. Like this doesn't stop now. And you know, and it's so powerful. I have a couple of friends in my world that they know, you know, around that time of year, they know, you know, to check in and how are you doing and what's happening. And you know, it was interesting. This year it was, some years don't hit me as hard. Last year it was like, oh, Jack, my sweetheart. Oh, it was the end of the day. And it was like, oh, hi, honey. Wow. And then this year, maybe because this year was 10. I don't know. Maybe it was because this year was a bigger number. I have no idea, but I was a mess. I looked at the calendar and it was like, oh God, I don't have anything planned. Shit. That means that something's brewing. And I went out to Elbow Falls that day and I found 32 heart rocks. I sat there and I'm like, of course, Jack is there. And as a medium, I see him and hear him. And he's like, okay, here's another one. Here's another one. Here's another one. Like he's just such a sweetheart. And so I love the signs. And, you know, with the work that I do, I always make sure that, you know, everyone knows whether they take a class with me or, you know, they interact with me anywhere, anyhow, you know, do you know what the signs are? Do you know what those signs are? Because I call those sprinkles of love from heaven. Anytime. Oh, hi, sweetheart. Who is this? Hi, honey. Oh my goodness.
Avery's cat.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say hi.
That's Avery's cat.
Yeah. 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 Avery's cat. And we have another cat as well. That's hers as well.
I love that. I love that they're just coming in to say hi. Hey, I'm here. Hello.
Yes. Yeah.
Hello. Oh my gosh. I love that. I love that. And so, yeah, I mean, I love that, you know, it's so true. I mean, even they just don't have their body anymore, that we can still connect with them. We can still experience them. And I tell people, you know, it's their essence. It's the essence of our loved ones that is still with us and we can still feel them. And, you know, we used to always, we would leave an empty space at the dinner table, you know, and it was just, that's just sort of what we did. I remember my parents they came for dinner once and they were like, well, let's sit. My dad sat in that spot and Emma was like, no, Papa, you can't sit there. And he was like, why? And she's like, well, that's where Jack's going to be. That's my brother. And he was like, he's kind of looking at me and he was just had this baffled look on his face. He's like, okay. And so he kind of moved over and then everything was fine again. And so it's interesting, right? Because it's
beautiful. It's beautiful. I love that Emma said that. Sometimes when Addison sets the table, she'll throw an extra placemat and she'll say, this is where Avery's sitting tonight.
Aww. Yeah. I think that's so sweet, right? Like it's just absolutely beautiful. And now, what else do you have going on with Avery's legacy? I know that you give talks and that you are teaching and just what does that look like? What else are you?
Mm-hmm. So it's I've done a few speaking engagements. Each year, the Alberta Children's Hospital here in Calgary has a Remembering the Children event, I guess would be the best way to call it, I think. And they have a parent who is a little bit further along in the journey come and speak to the newer parents on the journey. So I've spoken live at that event once, and then I did a like recorded Zoom message during COVID when we couldn't gather in person. So I've done that. I sit with SIDS Calgary on their board, and another group in Calgary here called Journey Through Loss of a Young Child, and it's a peer support group for moms, specifically who've lost a child. So I do some work with them. We work with other organizations. So there's a charity here in Calgary called Helping Families Handle Cancer. An incredible charity that supports parents who have a child receiving pediatric cancer, supports them financially with whatever they need. And we have partnered with them for their bereavement side. So when a family that they're supporting, when that child passes from cancer, we have a special box, Avery's Legacy Helping Families Handle Cancer box that we send out. So we work with that organization, and we've participated in a golf tournament of theirs as Team Avery's Legacy with a couple of my friends to help raise money for them. So we kind of dabble in a few different areas with regards mostly to parents and loss of a child. And I guess the one other thing we do is we work with a funeral home, and for every family that they serve, at the end of the service, we make a personalized box for them to gift to the family. It's just a way to say, like, thank you for trusting us to care for your loved one and walk with you on this journey. And, you know, as you move on to the kind of the next stages, the next steps, next part of your journey, know that we're still thinking of you. So it's a beautiful gesture from a local funeral home. We're, like, you know, so honored to be able to provide those boxes for them to pass along to their families that they serve.
I love that. That's so beautiful.
Thank you.
What would you say after everything that you've experienced and everything that has happened since Avery transitioned? What would you say to a mother who has just lost a child? What would you tell her to expect, or what does that first year look like, or what would you tell her to do, you know, self-care? How would you tell her to take care of herself?
Wow, that's a tough one. I'm just trying to think. I think, what would I say? I think first thing, I just want to like grab her and hug her.
Yeah.
And I feel like our boxes, it's like my way of grabbing them and hugging them and letting them know they're not alone.
Yeah.
So after a long hug and you know, and I know and I understand, I would just want them to know that they're gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Right. And I didn't believe it. I had someone tell me, like, you might not believe it now, but you know, you're gonna be okay. From another bereaved mom who had lost her teenage son, and I didn't believe it. And I didn't think that I would find joy, be happy. I didn't think that I'd ever have a day where I didn't know that it's been 263 days since Avery had passed.
Yeah.
But it changed. Grief is not, you know, a stagnant thing. It's ebbing and flowing and moving and changing. So I want them to know that, you know, they don't think it now, they don't believe it now, but you know, you'll be okay. You'll find joy again. And it doesn't mean that the sadness is gone. And I think, like I explained it to you, it's like surviving child loss is like holding a boiling ice cube. It's the seemingly impossible. It just doesn't even make any logical sense to hold a boiling ice cube. But you know, you survive, and you don't move on. I think language is really important. You don't move on, you move forward, and you move with your loss.
Yeah.
And then you find joy. And then the sadness is right alongside the joy.
Yep.
But then I find as like I'm, 7 years
Mhm.
into my journey, and I find that the sadness is almost in a strange way welcomed.
Mhm.
If that makes sense, it sounds kind of weird.
Yeah.
Um, but like I don't ever want there to be a day where I'm not sad, because like I know that that sadness is just love, and
Yes.
sadness looks very very different now. It's hard to find the language for sure.
It
um
is, right? And I've often said to people, when you lose a child, um, it's different language, it's different emotions, it's its own thing that you learn to navigate.
but I welcome it now, like when I have those
Yep.
moments that take my breath away. For example, I'll give you an example, the kindergarten orientation for my daughter, and the teacher said to me, "Is this your first child attending kindergarten?"
Mm.
And it took me back. I wasn't expecting it. My eyes filled up, and
Oh,
yeah, it is my first child, but like I didn't run from it or hide from it. Like I think earlier in grief I would have. I just kind of like sat with it and was like, yeah, yeah, it is, and it's okay that I'm sad.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
because I miss her and I love her. And then, I found the joy and excitement in looking at the kindergarten classroom and knowing that, her little sister would be checking it out.
Right. Oh,
So
I
yeah,
love.
I think to circle back to your answer, big hug, and you're not alone,
Yeah.
and you're gonna be okay.
Hmm. I
Yeah.
think it's I
Bumpy
think it's
road,
bumpy
bumpy
road.
road.
And it's true, right? I often tell people, joy and grief coincide. They dance together. And, and in the beginning it was, grief just was driving the bus and running over joy, and it was all over the place. And then, as you're saying, in time, it was like, oh, there's joy, and I remember telling people, the first couple of years after I lost Jack, I didn't wear mascara because I never knew when I was going to be triggered. I'd listen to something on the radio, or I'd find a heart rock, or I'd hear somebody call Jack. I'd just be like, whoa, I'd just be a total mess. And so I didn't wear mascara. And every morning I would get a latte and go sit down by the river and, go for a walk and just sort of be in that space. And there was one day where I sat there, I finished my latte and I froze. And I thought, I didn't cry today.
Yeah,
Oh, and that was new territory. It was like,
yeah. And then you cried because you didn't cry.
right? I'm like, I didn't
Yes.
cry. And I felt guilty for not crying. I'm like, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I should, oh, I'm a horrible mom. Like, what?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Right. And it just brought up so many
I
different
think
things.
that exactly what you said there. I'd want new parents to know that too. Like the thoughts that you have
Yeah.
that you might think are crazy, they're not. They're very, very normal. And like get them out, write them down, or find someone safe, maybe another bereaved parent who knows those thoughts, and share that. I often explain it to like the early days of grief, your emotional capacity, if you can envision like a dime, like that's all it is. And the whole, your emotional capacity, it's all filled with grief. That's it.
Yeah.
And then as time moves forward, that dime shaped grief, it doesn't get smaller. The edges start to expand. So now your emotional capacity is like a quarter,
Yeah.
but the dime is still there full of grief. And then, it grows to a loonie, to a toonie, to, whatever, the size of a cup or bigger. But that grief is still the same. You're just now able to, have other emotions at the same time as that grief.
Absolutely. I love that. That's it right there. You've encapsulated it. Like that is a beautiful, beautiful way to describe it. And it's, and the big thing too, I think, is I always tell, parents who have lost children, whatever you're feeling is okay. If you need to tell somebody to fuck off, tell them. If you need to be your advocate,
Yeah.
your healing advocate.
Yeah,
And
you do. Yeah. If you don't
no,
want to go to the Christmas dinner, don't go to the
don't
Christmas
go.
dinner.
Exactly.
Don't go.
Don't go.
Do what feels like right for
Yeah.
you without worry for other people.
Exactly. And I always tell people, a lot of people will say to me, well, I don't know, what do you think? And I'll say, how does it make you feel thinking about going and doing that? Does it bring you joy? Are you excited? Are you thinking about, what am I going to wear? What am I going to bring? Can I make cookies? Are you looking forward to seeing the people there? And usually it's exhausting. So I say to people,
Exhausting.
just say no, because and I've done this over the years as well. Everyone has, where I've gone to something where I kind of had that little whisper that said, let's rethink this. And I've pushed through and I've put on a happy face and I've gone, and then I was miserable and I had to decompress for days after. It's just like, wow. And when it comes to, I see it as not shielding your heart, but it's just, you're protecting your heart. Your heart, it's wounded, it's hurt, it's sore. I remember thinking that, it's like my heart had shattered into a million pieces. And I thought, oh my God, is it ever going to come back together? Will I ever have a heart again? Like, what is going to happen? And then there was a friend of mine, she said, it's like your life was like this nice, neat stack of cards. And then it just went up in the air. And she said, some of them will never come back. Some of them will come back, like little pieces of them. And I was like, oh my God, it's like a whole new life. And like I say to people, I'm not the same version of Shauna as before Jack.
Never. No. And I think for the people that are supporting those of us who are grieving, I think the best thing that you can do is just be there without judgment, without advice. No one wants to hear at least. No one wants any tips.
No.
You just want to be accepted for how you are. And, even if, you're supporting someone who's grieving and you think what they're doing is, you don't agree with it, you don't tell them.
No.
Right? You can talk to other people and be like, oh, I'm worried, but, don't make it about you. It's not you. They're not calling you because they're mad at you. They're just turning inward and trying to find some healing.
They are. There was I think I think he's Dr. Jeff. He's on Instagram. He's fantastic. And he said, sometimes you can ask someone, are you looking for me to hold space, or would you like solutions?
Yes.
And I think if we were to do that in pretty much every relationship in our life, it would be such a game changer. Are you looking for that? And I've got, I've had friends over the years where I would say something and right away they're in fix it. Do this, do that, do this. Here's a number. I'm going to text you, read this book, do this, this. And it's like, you just totally peed all over how I'm feeling. Like I'm just expressing how I feel it. And it's funny because years ago, I took this class and the facilitator, he said, and this is for, people who work intuitively, psychic, intuitive. And he said, unless someone asks you a question, they're not looking for your ideas or your solutions or your opinions. So he said, just, and with this work, I tell people, with the work that I do, the spiritual side of it is sacred, but the grieving is sacred as well, because again, you're holding space for someone's heartache. And that is such a vulnerable place to be, and to just sit with someone, there were,
and just witness their grief.
Yes, just to witness it. And oftentimes that's all they need. They just need a safe place to land. It's a safe place to land.
Yeah. And validation.
Yes, absolutely. That everything you're feeling is normal. And this book may say it isn't, and that book may say it isn't. And that one says there's 5 stages, and that one says 7. And this one says there might be 11 now. And you know what? It's okay. It can be whatever it needs to be. Your journey is your journey. And so a lot of people I was interviewing Theo. She's fantastic. She has a book titled My Grief is Not the Same as Your Grief. And what that means is that we all grieve differently. And she said, when I asked her, I said, so what do you think about the stages of grief? What does that look like for you? And she said, I didn't believe that I was going through stages of grief until I started writing. And she said, through my writing, I went through each of those stages of grief, and it's just fantastic. And I've met other people that they've gone through a few snippets and then they get to acceptance and they're like, okay, and that's that.
There's definitely common, what my friend Alana from Carry You With Me would say, common chunks of grief. That we experience. Yeah, exactly.
And just to tell someone, I think the biggest thing too is, I must say, I'm so sorry for your loss. I must say that 1,000 times a day because that's how I feel. I'm I'm so sorry for your loss. And from me, that's from my heart. That's from my Jack heart to their heart. It's like, I'm sorry for your loss. And is there anything that I can do? And a lot of people just love to share and love to talk about their person, and they talk about signs. And I get messages all day long every day about this sign, and I got this, and I found this, and I found that. And it's just, it's again that new, you have a different relationship. You have a different relationship with them. And it's beautiful. And it's so beautiful to incorporate your child in your life. How else do you incorporate Avery into your life?
So like you mentioned earlier, your other friend with Starbucks and using the name, we do the same thing. We order pizza, we go to Starbucks, whatever it is, the name is always Avery.
Yeah.
Again, I have a tattoo that has her name on it.
Right. Yes. Your tattoo.
That I, had put on memory of her. And another way I kind of carry her with me. Her button. The different signs. The ones are another big sign for us. 111. She was 1 year, 1 month, 1 day when she passed. So she sends me the ones all the time.
Yep.
Multiple times a day, I'll see some configuration of the 111.
I think when we were chatting that night, we went to have a glass of wine. It was there was a 111 somewhere. There was something. There was the number popped up for us when we were out tonight. We were kind of giggling.
Yeah. It's always there. How else do I carry her with me? Colors, I like the purple, or if I wear like our branded Avery's Legacy sweater, the color purple that I have. I have a necklace that has a locket that has her photo and her name on it.
I love that.
Yeah, well, I had a family ring made, and of course it has her birthstone in it as well.
Yeah.
That I always wear.
Oh, yeah. She's beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your beautiful Avery with us, and sharing everything about Avery's legacy. Now, would you tell everyone how they can find you?
Absolutely. So Avery, www.averyslegacy.com. And I think Instagram is Avery's_legacy on Instagram, and then Facebook as well.
Perfect. And we will have all of your contact info in the show notes so everyone can find you. And
perfect. Yeah, thank you.
I'm so excited.
They're shipped across Canada and the US.
Okay.
And then our donated boxes are for parents across the province of Alberta.
Beautiful. Absolutely love that. Thank you so much. I'm so excited for everyone to meet you. And
thank you. Meet Avery.
All about you, and about Avery and everything.
I think when we were talking, we had said that the work that you do and even the work that I do, I feel like it's not the work that I do. I feel like Avery's working through me, and it's really her work, and I'm just, driving the ship because she's not physically here, but it is definitely her work.
Oh, absolutely. It's her.
Spreading love and kindness is really her. She was so kind. She would always share her snacks, with her friends at her daycare before she would eat them. She always loved giving hugs and kisses to her cats and everyone. So it really is her. It is her love and kindness. Oh, so sweet. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. And I look forward to everyone meeting you and Avery and watching everything that you create to spread even more love and kindness throughout the world. Well, thank you. You can find me on Instagram at Shauna DeMalin Medium, or visit my website at livealifeyoulove.org, where you'll find my offerings, including my Growing Up in Heaven program that teaches you how to make the connection with your son or daughter on the other side. Thank you for listening, and see you next time here on the Oracle of Light.